Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm great, Maurice. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
Excellent. Well, I'm just going to gush for a second before we get into the questions. I'm a huge fan of yours, so this is very exciting for me, so if that's okay.
Oh, thank you very kindly. That's awfully sweet of you.
So, well, I'm going to start with the most boring question, but I promise they'll get much more interesting after that, okay?
Oh, okay.
So, I gotta lay the groundwork. So tell us a little bit about your character, Mr. Big, in Zootopia, for those people who haven't seen it, which I know isn't very many at this point, but just tell us a little about the character.
Mr. Big, I'll tell you, is first of all, he's a crime boss, but he's a crime boss with a heart of gold, and he loves his daughter Frou Frou, and because of his love for his daughter Frou Frou, he comes to help our heroes in their journey and to find out what's causing all the trouble in Zootopia.
Very cool. Now, obviously, your character is, shall we say, inspired by a certain performance by Marlon Brando in The Godfather. Was this?
Yes, very much so. It's no secret.
Right.
We definitely meant to pay big time homage to that film and to Brando's performance, and that was on the table as soon as we got into the studio. I actually came in with the idea that maybe something a little more De Niro-like would be what they might want, and they were like, no, this definitely has to be The Godfather. So we definitely made Mr. Big in direct tribute to the Coppola film, and it's been one of the people like it. It's been written up a couple of times as one of the 5 funniest scenes in the movie. So,
sure.
I'm so thrilled to be a part of that.
Is that an impression that you had in your back pocket, or did you have to sort of?
Oh goodness, yes.
Develop it?
Brando's been in my wheelhouse since I saw the movie in first run in 1973 when I was 15 years old. So
wow.
Yeah, no, I've had the Godfather there, and strangely enough, I've got a kid brother named Paul, who does a better Brando than me. So I've told Rich,
really?
I said, anything happens to me, you call my brother Paul in Toronto, and
Right. Now,
obviously, Paul is not doesn't have the performing bug. He's a guy who does voices for his friends at parties. But I'm the one that's cuckoo enough to actually try and make my living with it.
Well, you seem to be doing okay for yourself.
It's worked out, but it could have gone the other way. So I'm very grateful.
Right, sure. Now, obviously you do just an amazing amount of voiceovers, and Zootopia, sort of turned into this juggernaut hit. When you were recording it, did you have a sense that it was something special, or was it, I don't want to say just another voiceover job, but did you just kind of go in and do your thing and not really worry about it?
Oh well, I knew it was going to be definitely something that was going to have a lot of interest, and it was the next Disney film with Rich Moore and Byron Howard and Jared Bush at the helm. Following up on a movie like Frozen. I knew this was going to be a biggie. So,
right.
I wouldn't say there was pressure. Definitely, nobody applied any pressure, but I did know what I was going in on was going to be important. So it wasn't just another voiceover job. Plus, I've known Rich Moore for more than 20 years, just a little over 20 years. We worked together on The Critic and then Futurama. So, knowing that Rich thought enough of me to bring me in, I always want to do my best for him. He's an amazing director.
Of course.
And so, it was just, I was thrilled and honored and just wanted to bring my very best game to this movie. And once I saw the finished product up on the screen, I was like, wow, I'm so glad they asked me to come play.
Sure. Now, Disney obviously is, the biggest name in animation. Is the recording process itself any different when you're working for Disney versus, doing a TV show or stuff like that?
Well, it is. On a TV show, there's a little bit, especially, daytime TV animation is a little more casual feel to it. People get caught in traffic, that sort of thing. There's go get coffee in the kitchen of the studio. Okay, and it's kind of file in, and and then you play. Then you get into it, and you're interacting with your other actors. On Futurama we did that. On Pinky and the Brain, Rob Paulson and I were sure to always record. So one of us had a cold, we laid out that week and picked it up the next week because our interplay was so important. But on a Disney movie like this, where it's so, there's so much at stake, they had, at least in my part, they had me in individually, trained 3 cameras on me from different angles, and got me, in the exact perfect position behind the mic so they could get everything. And then we physicalized, and we got to the place where, where that Godfather thing happened. And it came from the inside out. I didn't try to do a Godfather face. I always seem to physicalize whatever voice I'm doing. But then I noticed I even began to stroke my chin the way Brando did in the movie, and little hand gestures. And I noticed some of those ended up in the film, So, but we had the luxury of time to really just get, a couple of pages of dialogue. We could spend 2 hours, 3 hours in the studio until we got it to the level of funny or pathos, whatever was needed for the scene. Whereas in TV, it's like we crank it out, and no matter what, we crank out the whole show in 4 hours. Right. We spent that much time just getting one, maybe 2 pages of dialogue.
Right. Sure. Your credits are endless. I can't even, begin to list them all. But I'm curious, when you come to a new character, obviously in this one, they knew exactly what they wanted with, the Brando. But when you come to a new character, typically, what's your process, or, kind of how do you approach creating a new character from scratch? I mean, you have so many voices you can jump into. What's the thought process that goes
discusses acting. Here we go. My process is just I try to have fun, and I try to reach inside and go, who does this feel like, and very often it's a celebrity, or it's a cross pollination of 2 celebrities. Sometimes it's somebody from my own life, but what helps me is to look at a character sketch. Now in this case we didn't have one, but the direction of just make them as much like the Godfather as you can. Was all we needed, and then that when I finally saw the picture, I was just so delighted. But I very often I'll look at a model sheet, like with the Brain. He to me was, I thought they'd drawn him like Orson Welles. It turned out they'd drawn him like one of the writers at Warner Brothers Animation that was a personal friend of theirs, but I didn't know that writer, so I just saw Welles. And gave them Wells and thought I was giving them what they wanted, and they thought I was some kind of genius for the idea of putting this deep, rumbly Orson Welles voice to a 2-inch tall lab mouse. So, that I fooled them again in classic show business style. But, so it's all manner of things. I mean, I'll also read the dialogue, and, but I always seem to work, inside outwards, and go, what does this feel like, or what would, if I looked like this character, what would I feel and sound like?
Right, sure. Now,
it's not a terribly technical thing.
No, that's fine. That's whatever works for you. Obviously, it works. So we're just
I just kind of feel my way around.
How you do it? Say again.
I said I just kind of feel my way around the character until he feels funny enough.
There you go. Great. Now, one of the things that we do, we have a podcast called After the Ending, where we like to take films and TV shows and look at what happens after they end, with what would happen in the real world, some of the characters. So I was curious if you'd be game to share what you think some of your signature characters might be doing nowadays, if I asked you. So, for example, what do you think the Brain is up to nowadays?
Well, the Brain in mouse years is 182 years old. But I believe that somehow or another, creaky bones and all, he's still trying to take over the, what is that thing I was always trying to take over? Pinky? What was I always, where are you, Pinky? 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 That's what.
Fantastic. That sounds about right. All right, what do you think Egon Spengler would be up to right now?
Dr. Egon Spengler has retired to a cottage in the Hamptons, and he is just growing his spores, mold, and fungus collection. And it's finally taken over the entire cottage, and he's encased in silk.
Very nice. What about Destro from the G.I. Joe cartoon, the second G.I. Joe cartoon?
Destro is in search of a throat lozenge. He can't move in the armor anymore. He's very old, and he just needs a good throat lozenge. Voice is shot.
All right, and finally, how about Balto the Wolf? What do you think he's up to now?
Oh, it's very sad. Balto's long gone. I'm sorry to tell you.
Well, that makes sense.
He's even older than Brain is in mouse years, in dog years.
Right.
That story happened in the like the 30s, my friend.
Oh,
I'm
right,
sorry.
right.
Balto's long gone.
Okay. Well, hey, listen, that's how sometimes our endings go. They're not always pretty. So.
That's right. Everybody's
well, thank you
dead.
for playing along. I appreciate it.
Welcome to life.
All right, one more. What's that?
I said, everybody's dead. Welcome to life. That's Balto from the afterlife talking.
Great. There you go. So we get a special guest appearance from deceased Balto.
There you go. Right.
All right. So I know we're running short on time. I did have one last oddball question for you. So according to the all-knowing internet, you produced the burp for Buddy the Elf in Elf. Is that true?
That is correct. Yes.
Really?
Actually,
go ahead.
They had seen me do the burps on Animaniacs, because I did all of Yakko's burping, Wacko's burping in those Hollywood Bowl scenes, which we achieved by both me singing all those classical music things in my patented syntho belch, which is not really a burp. It's me just turning my tongue inside out and then Tuvan rasping my throat, like a Tuvan monk, and until it hurts. And so I sang all those things in pitch and in key. They also sampled my burp for every note, so they could play it on a keyboard. And so that's what we did. So they saw that and they thought, well, could he sustain that for like 17 seconds? And I just said, for the right amount of money, he can. You're damn right. And so on I went. So I watched the scene and I looped to Will Ferrell's, his mouth, and just held the sound for as long as I could.
Wow. That's fascinating. That's great, though. Awesome. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you longer than my allotted time, but it's really been a great pleasure talking to you, and congratulations on the film. And
thank you.
Hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to you again in the future.
You bet. Thank you very much, Mike. Take care.